Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to the only place on YouTube, the internet, or the universe where you get Steelers 24/7. Anytime something's going on, you know BTSC radio on YouTube is going to have you covered. And Tony and I welcome you to Steeler Q&A. It's the show that, formerly known as The Hangover, that helps you get through the weekend. We are the lucky ones because today we get to go on right after the CBA was signed yesterday, and they were able to start making moves today, and they have made a ton of moves. And our question is, what's next? As always, Tony and I would like to welcome you to be a part of the show. You're so important to the process. We love having you here. Remember, if you do have questions on Q&A, wait till about 20 minutes to go ahead and put those on the live chat. Then we'll let you know, and we're going to open it up to questions, and we're going to hear everything that you have to say. If you want to support the show, it's as easy as just listening, telling a friend, hitting like, subscribing on YouTube. And if you do want to throw in a live chat, a super chat, and throw in some of your hard-earned money to help out with the show, you're allowed to do that. We'll put you up to the queue as always. But with that being said, we have a special guest coming on in a little bit. No, it is not a Pittsburgh Steeler. If you saw me, trying to solicit a Pittsburgh Steeler on on Twitter today, that is not true. That's not who's going to be on. It's going to be somebody from BTSC that you know and love. But with that, Tony, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Brian. Happy Monday. Hope your weekend was great. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're the ones that get to go on after all of this happened. And there's so much to happen. There's so much still that's going to happen. So we're glad to hear from you. First and foremost, before we get into everything else, hope everybody is finding a way to stay safe in all of this confusion and this crazy landscape here in Maryland. Everything is about to be shut down at 5 p.m. Now it's shut down. That's gyms, restaurants. Now you can still go to a drive-through. You can get carry out and stuff like that. I mean, you can still eat out. They can deliver it to you. You just can't go sit down and hang out in a bar and a restaurant. So anybody that wants to hang out at the bar of Tony and Bad, you very well can. So no, I'm looking up at the live chat, which I'm going to try to keep my eyes focused this way. But it's not Ian Whetstone. He'll be on the show, not our show, but this show a little later on in the week. Probably on the standard, but the special guest star is even better than that. In fact, let's just throw his face up on the board. Hey, you can't beat having Jeff Hartman in on the show, deputy editor. He's not Ryan Switzer.
Deputy editor? What?
I mean, no, I'm sorry, editor. I'm used to having the.
This is not Deputy Dave.
Yeah, it's not Deputy Dave. I'm sorry. I'm everybody's trying to guess who the special guest star was going to be, Jeff, and and then I just got all hammered in the head because a lot of people, Logan DiLorenzo is thinking that he's one of the few people that liked my tweet trying to solicit Ryan Switzer today. So he was hoping it was Switzer.
Oh, Job Man wants Flip on for me. That's fine. I can leave. That's not a problem. Job Man, we've got beef anyways, so that's fine.
No, I tell you what, if Flip's on the show, he and I will just fight the entire time. So you probably won't see Flip and I on the same show. But with that, we're just getting started, Jeff. We are lucky to be in the position of getting to talk about all these great moves all at once, whether they're great or not, but everything happened. And I figured, Tony and I could deliver it well, but having you on the show just makes it so much better. So we appreciate having you here. Let's start with the very first move of the day, something that a lot of us knew that was going to happen, and we figured this was going to push the dominoes down and help shape everything. It's the franchise tagging of Bud Dupree. Jeff, Tony, what are your thoughts? Let's start with Jeff.
I mean, I guess I'll answer your question with a question. Did anything happen today that was unexpected?
Yes. I will say that.
Well, okay, outside of Ramon Foster's retirement. I
Okay.
mean, Tony, do you think did anything happen that was unexpected? Because to me, it was fast and furious. A lot of things happened at once. Wasn't really that surprised though. Wasn't really that shocked.
I'd say maybe.
Go ahead, Tony.
Maybe releasing Mark Barron might have been a bit of a surprise since he played so much for them last year. But I think even that wasn't a huge shocker. I think everything, whether it was Foster retiring or being cut, I think we knew they were going to move on from him, and it was just a matter of when.
Okay, I can see that. But Barron, I mean, we talked about him a lot on a lot of our shows that he was a potential, his cap hit was so high that if you're going to, once, like you said, Brian, once they tagged Dupree, it was the domino effect. You now have to free up what we found out is $15.8 million, not the 16.2 we thought under the old CBA. There's going to have to be a lot of cuts. So, Brian, were you surprised?
I was surprised with one move. I just didn't expect them to do the Johnny Holton move. I just didn't really think that was going to happen. And I almost said Hilton because I know Lance was thinking that you said on one of our pre-production show but one of our live chats that we have going behind the scenes. I thought that maybe you said Hilton. So it was like a lot of confusion and actually a lot of fun as we chuckled at each other. But I just didn't think Holton would go. But they got almost $1 million out of that. What, 990 or so?
855, I think I saw.
Okay, so close to $1 million. That's that helps out quite a bit. And they basically don't think that they're going to need him going forward, so that's fine. The only other guy that I actually thought was going to get cut and they would get some savings from would have been Jordan Berry, your favorite player, Jeff.
he would what? I don't know how much they would save. Is it like $2 million?
It was close to $2 million.
They still might cut him.
2.5.
They still might cut him.
I know.
That's
I would.
an option. See, Tony's on my board.
Yeah.
So he would cut him too.
I wanted them to cut him last year. I don't know why he was able to stick around for the last two training camps, but yeah, if he's making, or if he's a $2 million cap hit, then I think he's somebody you can very easily move on from.
And then send him back to the Melbourne McDonald's where he was serving up Happy Meals. I don't know exactly what he did there, but rumor has it that he did shank a few fries. So I'm not sure if that's true, but that's kind of what I heard. Sorry, really bad jokes. I have to throw them in there. Welcome to the Q&A, Jeff. Sorry about that. I know you're not used to this kind of humor when I'm on the other show. But and the other move that I don't know if it's quite official, but Dave Schofield put out there. I don't know if this is for public consumption, but it seems like the rumor out there right now is that Vance McDonald is reworking his deal. I don't know if that is completely official or not, but that could be another $5 million in being deferred into a bonus, into a signing bonus, his base salary. So I don't know what all you've heard. Tony, have you heard that at all?
Just from you, and a couple of people mentioned it in the live chat. But if that is true, then that's one of the great things about the CBA being approved is you get to conduct business like you normally would. And this is something they would normally do, is restructure contracts into the future to try to free up space.
So, Jeff, do you think that this is a move that could have them just clearing more space to take care of business, or to actually bring somebody in?
Dave was texting me before I came on the air about, how do we want to handle this article, this, that, and the other. And they're not done. I think the Steelers are going to make, I'll say 2 moves in free agency, maybe even 3. And they're not going to be day 1 moves. They're not going to be maybe one of them is a day 2 move. It's going to be your day 2, day 3 type free agency move. But they still have a lot of work to do that. You have $15.8 million for the franchise tag, which was given to Bud Dupree earlier today. They've already freed up just over $15 million. So they still don't even have that covered. So if they were to get this deal done with Vance McDonald, that would give them the Bud Dupree money. they still got to go out and find some more money to bring in anyone, So with that case, you're looking at restructured contracts. You're looking at maybe getting someone like Cam Hayward a new contract because they still have to free up a significant amount of money. Now, Dave's going to run an article tomorrow about how trying to get Bud Dupree on a long-term contract is vital, because if they could do that, they could save upwards of $10 million this year on the cap, because it would take that 15.8 and probably push it down to like 5. That's significant. But I think there's still going to be players, people. I know that fans are wanting those day 1-2 picks, but they're looking for those early franchise free agency moves. Don't expect that, but I think they're going to be players. I still do think they're going to make some moves.
Do you think there's a possibility of a tag and trade, or do you think they're married to Bud Dupree at this point?
You're asking me?
Yes.
I think that tag and trade is very unlikely. As much as we can sit here and wax poetic about how it makes a lot of sense and how it's honestly it would be a good move, I don't think there's a team out there that is that dire in need of a pass rusher, especially someone like Bud Dupree, who hasn't done it for the long haul, that is going to want to not just pay him that 15.8 this year, but try to renegotiate a long-term deal. I don't know. Tony, what do you think?
I don't think a team's going to be willing to give up a first-round pick for him for that price tag. So no, I think it's kind of it's a long shot for that to happen.
With what Bud Dupree has been saying, fellas, and Tony, I'll start with you. Do you feel that Bud Dupree wants to be here long term? Because it seems like he has, or is that just lip service at this point? Is he trying to get a long term deal done with the Steelers, or is this a situation that it could go down the Le'Veon Bell road, and then and he is not here next year?
No, I could see him wanting to work out a deal. I mean, you haven't, like Le'Veon Bell. I mean, it was pretty obvious from early on that he wanted to be the highest paid running back. He wanted to be the highest paid running back, and he also wanted to be paid as a receiver. You haven't heard that from Dupree. I think last year was his what did he make, $9 million last year? So, if you can get him a deal, and even if it averages 11, 12 million a year, I think he would be happy with that. So I think he's somebody you could get signed to a long-term deal, and I think he's probably more sincere with his talk than somebody like a Bell was a couple years ago.
Jeff, thoughts?
Let's be honest. In today's National Football League, there's no loyalty anymore. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. And like Tony just said, Le'Veon Bell wanted to reset the running back market and prove that his value as both a receiver and a runner were unprecedented. Now, he didn't do that. We know this. I don't think Bud Dupree is in that camp. I don't think he's viewing himself as a Von Miller type that's going to require like a super ridiculous contract. But at the same time, he once paid what he feels he's worth. And so it comes down to the age-old question of, do the Steelers' values and how they view him match up with how he views himself? If those two are equal, they'll get a deal done and he'll stay because it's where the money is. If it's not, and he's going to play 1 year and he's going to be hitting the I don't think they're going to tag him again. So it would be a 1 year and then he's an unrestricted free agent after 2020. But I don't know. I think this is a smart move by the Steelers. If they can somehow, yes, I understand that in terms of the salary cap, it would be a burden. But if they don't get a deal done, let's see what he does in 2020, because if he doesn't perform well, if he kind of reverts back to his years 1 through 4, Bud Dupree, they didn't spend a bunch of money in a long-term deal. But at the same time, it's a gamble, because if he plays extremely well again, let's say he has 12, 13 sacks on top of his 11.5 from 2019, well, then you're going to have to pay him more money. So that's the predicament that you're in that situation.
Okay, over under 0.01%. Javon Hargrave stays with the Steelers. Let's start with you, Jeff.
Under. A resounding under.
Tony, what do you think?
There's no money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's got to be -0. So, yeah.
And this is something we knew. And going through this whole process that it was going to be one or the other. And we pretty much felt this was going to happen this way, but you have to bring that up. So that's another domino. Not really. That's a domino that's going to fall pretty soon as we wish him best, as Javon Hargrave does send his services to another team. We just hope it's not in the AFC North.
I doubt he goes. I doubt he goes to Baltimore with them picking up Calais Campbell.
And now it looks like the Browns are having no problem spending money. I don't know if the rumor on the live chat is true, but there's a possibility of Jack Conklin. Somebody put on the live chat, but I have not seen any confirmation of that. But they went and picked up a tight end as well today, and Austin Hooper, probably the number one tight end out on the market. I think the Steelers will do well by keeping Vance McDonald, especially with Ben Roethlisberger being back. But what do you think the next move is going to be, fellas? I'm thinking that it's time to look and take care of their own. And the next move is a couple Fs, Filer and Finney, and figuring out where those guys go. We already had the other F figured out as Foster. On lots of F's on the offensive line that usually plays like an A, but as Foster has retired, looks like they were trying to get him shipped to another team. He decided to retire. That leads me to believe that there weren't any interest. So does Foster retiring help the situation with Finney and Filer, Jeff?
I don't think it plays into it at all, because that we all agreed that Foster wasn't going to be there anyways. But you speak of Filer, that's a whole other point we didn't even bring up when we talked about money available, the available cap space. If they're going to tender either Hilton and or Filer, they have to have the money for that too. If they put like $3 million, they put like a second or third round tender on either one of these guys. They have to have that allotment when the league year starts. This team is in no way, shape, or form done with their moves. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe there's another player that's cut. But I mean, I think Filer has to stay. I think Hilton has to stay. But in terms of the offensive line, shoot, I don't think you're going to see many moves other than Filer's tender, in my opinion.
So if you're looking at those three, it seems like your top priority, Jeff, is Filer. Tony, is Filer your top priority, or are you leaning more towards Finney or Hilton?
I think my top priority would be Hilton, but I think he might be the toughest to get signed to a long-term deal because he's so valuable to that secondary, and he's so valuable as a slot corner. But I mean, if you're just focused on the offensive line, like we talked about last week, if you tender Filer and he could play left guard, and then you have options at right tackle with Shooks and Zach Banner, so that might be a direction they go in. And I don't think you could afford to keep both Filer and Finney.
No.
Jeff.
Yes.
Now, my question to you is, are they done with the cuts? You mentioned earlier that you don't think that they are. Who do you think would be next up, or would there be a surprise in there?
Well, like a guy like Jordan Berry, I would view as expendable. I feel like you could get someone that could replace his production. The big question mark with that is, what is he as a holder to the Wizard of Oz, Chris Boswell? And that's something that's very specific to every kicker, is the person holding the football. So unless Boswell says, look, he's my guy, you can't get rid of him, that could be a surprise, I guess. But as you said earlier, I'm not sure if that would be a surprise. I think the surprises might come with contract stuff. You might see Ben Roethlisberger renegotiate. You might see Stephon Tuitt redo his contract. You might see a new contract for Cam Hayward. I don't know. Maybe they get Juju Smith-Schuster a contract. I don't know. But there's something about this situation that tells me they aren't done, because they want to make moves in free agency, but they don't have any capital to do so. Like none. Literally none.
Right. And they still have to sign a draft class in a couple months.
Yeah.
They still have to sign a draft class too. They have to make room for that.
It's a dire situation right now, to be honest with you.
The funny thing about the draft class is they are only paying 6 men instead of what the 9 that they had to pay last year, or it could have been 8. But there's been situations where they've been paying. I remember back in Antonio Brown's year when Pouncey was a rookie, and Emmanuel Sanders, and what a class, by the way. And don't forget Jason Worlds was in that class. But when those guys were coming in, they kept most of those guys. So they're not going to be bringing, unless they make a trade, they are not going to be bringing anybody in. Speaking of trades, there were some crazy trades around the league today. And, the Ravens were involved in not a crazy trade, but one that just ticks me off because they got another second round pick by dealing Hayden Hurst. So that's to a team that definitely needs it in the Atlanta Falcons, who lost their tight end today. So that's an interesting deal. That makes them stronger. Calais Campbell makes them stronger. But probably the two biggest trades were watching an all-pro and DeForest Buckner become one of the highest paid defensive players in the league now that he's with the Indianapolis Colts, getting dealt for a first-round draft pick. And, of course, DeAndre Hopkins.
There it is. I was waiting for the biggest flop. Oh my gosh.
You're waiting for it. I have to build it up there, Jeffy. So DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, probably the craziest one. If you are an Arizona Cardinal fan right now, you have Kenyon Drake and you just brought DeAndre Hopkins, you're probably loving life. What if you're a Houston Texan fan, Jeff?
Outside of just I would be infuriated. But I would also ask a question, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm not speculating, but if I was a fan, I would wonder, is this guy a cancer in the locker room? Because that trade, it just seemed like they were dumping him. You're talking one of the best wide receivers in the game. And it just seemed like that Bill O'Brien was fine. We just need to get rid of him. That's almost what it felt like to me. It almost felt like with Antonio Brown, look, we'll take anything. Hey, the Raiders, we'll give you a third and a fifth. Okay, sure. Take it. Just, we want him gone. That's what it felt like to me. Because no one in their right mind would make that trade unless, to me, there's an undercurrent there. And I don't know, Tony, if you agree or disagree.
Tony?
Well, I mean, from everything I've heard about DeAndre Hopkins, he's a good citizen. So, I mean, that would make sense if wasn't for his, what you heard about of his character, which is supposed to be pretty good.
I didn't hear it. I was just wondering. I don't have any insider knowledge.
No, I get that because it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're taking, how quickly the running backs depreciate in the NFL now, and you're taking that on, and you're giving up probably one of the top 4 or 5 receivers in the NFL, maybe the best receiver in the NFL. And how do you think Deshaun Watson feels? Oh. I mean, here's a good young quarterback, and you've taken away one of the best weapons in the game for a running back. So I when I saw it, my friends were texting me about it, and I was shocked. It just didn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't make any sense.
Let me say this: Kyler Murray, even though just in year 2, is not going to have an excuse of not enough talent, because as you said, Brian, he's going to have Kenyon Drake. He still has Larry Fitzgerald, Mr. Dependable, and he obviously now has one of the best receivers in football. But a lot of people are speculating, saying, "Oh my gosh, now this deal is not finalized till Wednesday." They're saying, "How is another team?" And someone brought up the Saints, the New Orleans Saints. How's another team not seeing this, saying, "We'll give the Cardinals, we'll give the Texans more for this than just what they gave. We'll give you more." It's crazy. That's why my mind went to there has to be something else. It might not be right. But there's no way, in my opinion, O'Brien. Is he the GM too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's putting his head on a platter right now. It's on. If he doesn't win this year, you just signed your pink slip there, buddy. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. Just when I saw that, I was just like, whoa, it is on. And of course, my texts and tweets blew up as well.
How a bigger question maybe for the Steelers is how were the Ravens able to get Campbell for a 5th round pick? I mean, that seems like another team could have swooped in and gotten him for a 3rd or a 4th round pick if they wanted to.
The salary dump. They didn't want to pay his salary anymore.
And
so the Ravens picked it up full.
Yep. And they had the money to do it. So that's the problem with that. Hopefully their money will they'll go away soon.
Can I ask you all a question? Go ahead and read that, and then I ask you a question.
I'm just going to thank Paul Bullock. Love your videos. He threw $1.99 in on the live chat. I didn't want to lose that. Paul, we do appreciate you, and thanks for joining us. Jeff.
Yeah, I want to say there was someone in the live chat just had a kid. I lost it, but congratulations, man. I was literally like yesterday. They had a little baby girl. So he said Steeler Nation gains another one. So I want to say the last name was Moreno.
Okay, I did not see that, or I would have definitely brought that up. If you have just had a child, and
not him, I think it was someone else that had the child. But yeah, you know what I mean?
Please come forward.
That's not the question. No, seriously. This question was an article that ran on the site today. Michael Beck, who's a volunteer contributor to the website, wrote it. And I don't know if you all saw it or not. There's a lot of rumors about Jameis Winston to the Steelers.
That's crazy to me.
He cited those sources like Peter King, Chris Sims of NBC. Like, these are not like so-and-so from some blogspot website in his mom's basement. This is not those type of reports. These are legitimate journalists. And so because of that, is there any way possible? Yeah, Jesse Moreno, there it is. Congratulations. He might not be in the live chat anymore. We wish him congratulations. So
congratulations, Jesse.
Yeah. Is there any way in your all's mind that you could see it possibly happening, or would you want it to even happen for Jameis Winston to come to Pittsburgh, be the backup, learn for a year, and then maybe be the guy? I just want to get your take. I'm not going to give my opinion. Brian, what do you think?
I just think I don't want to be that guy, but what kind of money? I mean, where are we coming up with that money? And I'm the one that always says that, but that's just not one of the priorities at this point. And if you're going to bring a guy like that in, then it is going to be definite bargain basement at this point. And I don't think Jameis wants to go for bargain basement. It's just, I would bring talent in any way I could. Heck, I want Case Keenum in here. So I mean, I would take a great backup, a good backup. I'm dying for Case Keenum. If that ever happens, I would be loving it. Number 4 here in Pittsburgh. But I just don't think it fits what they're doing. And there's definitely more pressing things that need to be taken care of. So I would not think that they would go ahead and do that. If they're going to bring in another quarterback, I think it's going to be like a Matt Moore, a Case Keenum, a guy like that is just a grizzled veteran and a backup.
What about you,
Tony?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't, I mean, with the lack of quarterback talent around the league, I can't see Winston wanting to go somewhere where he knows he's going to be a backup for at least a year, maybe 2. And settling for that kind of salary when he could probably go out and get 15-20 million at least from a team willing to give it to him. I agree with Brian. At this point, you're going to want a guy who is content with being a backup, but I don't think Winston's going to want to sit around for 2 years. And we have to remember, Ben doesn't really like that kind of stuff anyway. He was kind of threatened by Mason Rudolph. How do you think he'd be threatened by a former number 1 overall pick? So I don't see it happening at all. And again, they have no money. So I don't know where these people are coming up with this stuff, but whatever. It gave us something to talk about.
I don't think that Ben is intimidated or threatened by Mason Rudolph anymore after 2019.
No. But he was 2 years ago. But he certainly, I think I could see him definitely being threatened by Winston, at least for 2020.
Ben is more intimidated by a mason jar at this point, I think, after last year. Jeff, I want to thank you so much for coming in. Do you have anything else to go ahead and throw at the group after a very busy day of the new 2020 year that's getting ready to start?
Yeah, for me, it's just, as the editor of the website and like the overall leader of our podcast platform, stay with the website and the channel. We are going to have every bit of news and commentary. That's Tony's MO, is the commentary side of things. I mean, we're going to have everything for you throughout this week. So things are going to get crazy. And I call it the free agent frenzy for a reason. Today was absolutely nuts on the website. I think we published like 12 or 13 stories, everything from the Big Ragu's retirement down to some commentary about James Washington and Ben Roethlisberger. I'm actually going to put that back up on the front. So, Job, man, hit the bricks, will you? Good Lord. Bringing it up across right now. But I want to say we have 140 plus people in the live chat right now. I want to make sure everyone knows check out our show to the rest of the week. I know that Bryan plugs it. I just want to plug it again. And then check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, because a lot of people find this podcast that don't know that we are a branch of that website. So make sure you check that out. Guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for being here, Jeff. We really appreciate it. And sorry I demoted you to deputy editor at the beginning, but editor-in-chief, Jeff Hartman, thank you.
When you get your next paycheck, you'll understand why it's a little bit less. All right.
Absolutely. Jeff Hartman, everybody, fantastic to have him in on the show.
That was great. That was great stuff.
Love having Jeff, and he definitely brings a different perspective than I ever do. So wouldn't have him in here because there's so much stuff going on. To answer his question, one more thing about Jameis Winston. Look, we don't think it's going to happen. I mean, crazier things have happened. I'd welcome him in here if it fit. Like if this was last year and there was a little more money and there was an opportunity, yeah, definitely you think about bringing a guy like that in.
A perfect world. You'd love to have bring a guy like that in and have him sit for a couple of years, kind of like a Jim Plunkett's thing, where former number 1 overall pick, he comes in his 10th year with a great organization, and he helps. He continues winning for you, like he did after Ken Stabler retired, or was traded. So in a perfect world, it'd be great, but I mean, there's just no way it's going to happen. It's not a perfect world at all.
How many of us would have said no to Tannehill last year? A lot of us probably would. I mean, come on. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but come on, we probably would have said no to that. You're going to say no to a lot of things, but if you get a chance to get talent, you do. But I just, like I said, I just don't think it's going to be happening at all. With that, let's go to the live chat, because we know we do have 135 people in here. Let's hear what you have to say. Tony, do you have any other thoughts on the moves, or what moves you feel that's probably going to be next outside of anything that we've discussed?
I'm just very intrigued to see what they do with Mike Hilton, because I think that is a big domino that could fall and change everything, because he is a valuable member of that secondary. And if they don't have enough money to pay him, if they decide that Cam Sutton is going to be their slot corner for 2020, I mean, that's a big decision for them.
And, that's a great comment, because lost in the shuffle of everything that we've talked about is the situation with Mike Hilton. A lot of people would be devastated to see him go. I mean, I'm a big fan of Hilton. I'm a big fan of Cam Sutton. It just, at this point, it's something you've got to look at, is where do you need to put the resources. Kevin Colbert, thank you for being in the live chat here. Wants to keep Hilton, so he's saying yes. Donald Nolan asks this question. Bad, who is the backup outside linebacker now that Chicolo's gone? So to me, it's looking like you've got the two Toledo guys. You've got Ola Adeniyi, and you've got Tuzar Skipper that are there, and who knows who comes in next? I mean, there's still something's going to happen. So you never know that. Tate Boys, a great contributor to our show, says Villanueva bye-bye. That would be a surprise, but my gosh, lots of money comes off the books if they do make a move with Big Al. So you never know there. But go ahead, Tony.
There's a situation where you could possibly put Shooks at left tackle and keep Father at right tackle and try to find a way to get a deal done with Finney. I mean, if that were to happen. I'm not big on the Chooks bandwagon. I'm more of a Zach Banner guy, and I could really be wrong on that. I think that's a guy that I'm really apprehensive to go ahead and throw a lot of resources at Chooks right now. Snowman, who's always contributing to the show, throws in $2. Snowman, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. When will the Steelers draft a wide receiver? I think they're drafting one this year. I actually could see that happening with the second or third pick, which would be their first or second pick this year, but in the second or third round. It's a very deep wide receiver draft.
I looked at it the other day. I was looking at some names, and there's a lot of tall receivers, a lot of fast receivers just in the top 20. So I compiled a list of 20 of the top wide receivers coming out in the draft, and Pittsburgh could do well with any one of those guys. I could actually see them looking at least in the third round, possibly in the second. Tony, with this Bud Dupree news, does this make wide receiver or offensive line more valuable now when we're looking at the top pick in the college draft?
Not necessarily, because I think you could the fact that they've used so many of their resources on receivers in recent years, you could probably maybe find one in the fourth round. You said it was a deep class, so they might be able to find one there. With Bud, if they can't get a long-term deal done with him, I mean, you might have to think about the future and maybe use that second-round pick on an outside linebacker. So I don't think it really changes anything. I think they're still gonna go, especially since they're drafting in the second round. I think they're gonna really stick to their best player available mantra this year, as opposed to other years where they said that, but they really drafted for need.
I'm just gonna laugh here because Isaac, another great contributor to our show, wants to say, let's just offer Jalen Samuels up for Hopkins, and he threw in the LOL. That's that's really funny. I don't know if I really don't think that that's going to happen. Arizona has this beat already with that. 4TL Music Group, I do like this comment. Bad and Tony, I think our 49th pick should be Claypool. That's Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame. He takes care of two positions. He's a very big guy that can play both tight end and can play wide receiver. Fighting Irish, that's a guy I've been looking at as well. I really like Chase Claypool. 4TL's not the only guy. Snowman agrees. Tate Boys also says tight end. So those are the uninspired, says Chase Claypool as well. So that's a guy that you should really take a look at. And one thing I like to do when these mock drafts come out, I go and look these guys up right away if I'm not familiar with their names. And so if a mock comes out, it's somebody that they're looking at, and whoever's doing these mocks for a second round pick almost seem to be more in touch with the need, not just the needs of the team, but with the market out there. So that's something you should really go ahead, take a look at. And oh my gosh, it just came across Bleacher Report. I am devastated. I am absolutely devastated. Case Keenum is coming to the AFC North, and it's not Pittsburgh, my friends. Case Keenum is now signing a 3-year, $18 million deal to be a Cleveland Brown, according to Adam Schefter. No!
That doesn't make any sense. Why would he want to come here? Why would he want to sign as a backup? I mean, obviously Baker Mayfield is the future there, and they're gonna continue to try to develop him for the next 2 or 3 years. Why would he want to come here when he could probably go so many other places and start? I just don't get that at all.
So Nap 1963 said earlier, Bad's head is on a platter if the Steelers get Case Keenum. Well, it's not, the head's going to be on the platter for something else, but not that. I can't believe it. Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, I am crushed. North Top says this. Pack it up, boys. Division is done.
Well, I mean, when you see that deal, 3 years for $18 million, there was no way he was going to be able to. They were going to be able to sign him anyway at that price. I mean, it would have to be half of that kind of a deal, half of that lucrative, I would say.
That's really interesting. Donald Nolan, I'm just going to tell you, they've been joking that I've had a crush on Case Keenum for a long time. I think that if Case Keenum was here last year, there you go. That they're going deep into the playoffs.
Well, that's my point.
With that defense.
I mean, he's
the Steelers.
Yeah, that's my point. He's starter capable. So, why would he want to? I don't know. Maybe he's content with being a backup at this point of his career. I don't know. I mean, it's a good way to make a living. $18 million to back up, to be a backup quarterback.
Wow, so interesting. There you go. I cannot believe it. But we're here talking about the Steelers, and I do not know if I agree with Jeff. I don't know if they're going to be signing anybody this week. They probably won't be. I think it's a second wave type situation, but we've seen them do well in the second wave. If you look back to 2017, Tyson Alualu was a second wave guy. And I still think that somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Dennis Sheridan mentioned that he could be a guy that you could go ahead and cut, and you possibly can, but you need a guy like that to, with him being signed, to ease the transition and be in there and play well like he did for Stephon Tuitt with Javon Hargrave going, because he is inside and outside. So I mean, as far as the defensive line, he could play on the outside of it. He could play in the interior. So there you go. Wow. Dion Murray says 10 million guaranteed. He's shaking his head. I am too. I mean, I wasn't paying that kind of money for him, but the Cleveland Browns have the money to do it.
Yeah, it must be nice to have a lot of salary cap room.
Yeah, but it's what you do with it. And at the end of the day, you're the Cleveland Browns, and you haven't proven anything. So there you go. We're going to look at the live chat for any last couple of questions, and then we're going to get ready to wrap everything up.
I wanted to answer Jav Man's question, because he asked it twice about, since they got rid of Holton, did they sign Deion Kane? Yeah, I mean, why not? It's not going to cost them a whole heck of a lot. I think they like his potential. I think we all like his potential. So I think they're going to bring him back for sure.
I absolutely love the idea of having Deion Kane, having him in there cheap, being a big guy that has a lot of potential, and I love what Ben Roethlisberger could do with a guy like that. Dave Schofield throws in this, and no way was I saying that we're going to cut him, but I agree. He's playing way better than his salary. And but we've got Dave means it when he's throwing in all caps on way. So if you're listening and not watching on the live chat, you could see that he did go all caps on me on one word. So I agree.
Well, and plus, I mean, it's unlike he's practically a starter now with Hargrave gone. So I mean, you're awfully thin, on your defensive line if you get rid of him, and Hargrave is also leaves, which he's going to.
Okay, apparently I mentioned that it was Dennis who said Alualu. Somebody put Alualu. I thought it was you, Dennis, earlier in the show. I do apologize. I'm not sure what it was. I thought you typed in Alualu earlier, so I will go ahead and apologize to you for that. That's why I should not be looking at the live chat there. Ace Rag says Bugs will step up, and I definitely agree. I think that's a guy you look at stepping up, and you keep Alualu in there, and you bring in somebody in the draft. You bring in maybe a future guy that he had. Looks like Browns did sign Jack Conklin that we talked about earlier. North Top is reporting that. So with that, the Browns are looking for that Super Bowl in March again. Like they won last year's Super Bowl, and Dennis is saying he got a Lulu confused with a Denny. No problem. And then they're saying Mr. Electric Football is safe, and that's Pink Switzer 9867X1 Hut. So Mr. Electric Football, boy, I tell you what, that's a guy that'll fight you on Twitter It's somebody talked about him getting cut, and he went in and had an impassioned plea. Then I tried to get him on the show by saying, "Hey, yeah, let's talk about 2020. Come on our show on BTSC," and he completely ignored me. So, hey, Ryan, I would have given you a whole forum with all of us here, and we would have been pretty cool to you too. So that's it. You would not been bombarded whatsoever.
I would have been like Chris Farley. Remember that time you caught that ball? That was so awesome. I would have been awestruck. Come on, Ryan. Come on our show next week.
Yeah, the invitation's out. I mean, come on. You don't want to go on. You don't want to go on the Stat Geek. It's a great show, but they have guests all the time. You want to come on the Q&A in the unorthodox show that is bad and tone deaf as we do that. You don't want to go on with Jeff and Lance Switzer. So Switz, we've got you. We've got your back here. Come on. You know what? You'd be fine to be on any of those shows. Fantastic shows. Big shout out to Jeff Hartman. Also, Lance, who does those shows. Lance did the trifecta this weekend, doing 3 over the weekend. Of course, Dave and Big Bro they do great stuff here. But my goal is to get a Steeler in some kind of form on this show. I don't care. I don't care if it's an unrestricted, an undrafted free agent that no one's heard of. One of these days we are getting a Steeler on here. So there you go. Javman says, well, since Jeff's no longer on the show, he doesn't have to rip on the sport of lacrosse, and he'd say, love to see the Steelers land Njoku. I tell you what, David Njoku could be available now. I mean, he could be a cheaper option as well. But the Browns would never let them go to the Steelers. With that, it was a busy day. I will tell you, more things are coming. It's happening. We're going to find out about Filer, Finney, Hilton. We're going to find out where everything is going to go, and we're going to try to put everything into place. But the only place to check it out is here, because when it happens, Jeff and Dave are on top of it. It is going on the website, behindthesteelcurtain.com, right away. So, for breaking news, it's there. For commentary and fun and musings and speculation and everything, it is going to be on there. So new articles are posting 10 times a day, if not even more at this time. A lot of talented writers on there, with me being at the bottom of that totem pole, but I have no problem saying that because that's how good they are. No, seriously, they are that good. You could always read the musings of Tony Defeo as well. I thank you all for taking the time to hang out with us today, and we will be back with you next week to answer questions. Tony, do you have any last thoughts before we get ahead and wrap this up?
Well, I just want to answer Michael O'Malley's question. He asked, what are my thoughts on salary cap versus needs? Well, the salary cap, they're up against the cap as always, and they still, like Jeff said, they have a lot of work to do to get under the cap again. So I think as far as free agency with their needs, it's going to be, like Jeff said, second, third, maybe fourth wave type players. That's the reality this year, but you could find some bargains in that by doing it that way.
Well, we do have to throw this in because we just got a live chat, and we don't want to we don't want to go ahead and miss out on this. Thanks, Paul Bollock, 199. So who's going to replace Ramon Foster? I think at this point, you got to wait for those dominoes to fall to see what happens with Filer and Finney. If Finney is re-signed, it's going to be Finney. If it's Filer is re-signed, he moves over, and you look at a guy like Chooks or Zach Banner, in that spot, because you have a guy that's versatile like Matt Filer from Bloomsburg to go ahead and move over, Paul. So that could be a possibility. Dennis Sheridan says, you all say stay safe, shelter in place until OTAs. Hey, I have no problem with that, because the whole thing is we need to be safe, and we all need to keep our BTSC family here intact. So hit like, tell a friend, like Michael O'Malley says, and he always says that, so I do appreciate you. Appreciate all of you that take the time. Thanks for coming in. It was a live show. It feels really good. And as we get ready to go into the rest of this week, more dominoes are going to fall. So you keep it right here. So to quote the great Roddy Rowdy Piper, just when you think you've got all the answers, Tony,
we keep changing the questions. See you guys next week.
Later, guys. Thank you so much.